Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. We're not time traveling to battlefields or palaces. No, tonight you're lying down under a velvet Egyptian sky, somewhere around 1250 BCE, where the nights are dry, the stars are relentless, and sleep is a kind of sacred ritual. You're not in some luxury suite with blackout curtains. You're outdoors in a sun-baked courtyard, on a mat of woven reeds, with linen sheets that feel like they've been blessed by the gods, or, more realistically, boiled in river water and beaten soft by the hands of someone with excellent upper body strength. The night air smells faintly of dust and palm sap. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey makes a sound like a haunted trumpet. There's no mosquito net, sorry, but on the bright side, there's also no blue light from your phone because, well, it's 3,000 years too early. And here's a fun thought, even in this ancient age, people worried about how to get better sleep. Though their solutions were creative. And no, you definitely wouldn't survive this, unless you had a high tolerance for crocodile fat and headrests made of wood. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and your time zone. I love seeing how far this little storytelling circle reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Underscore 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 underscore. You lie on your side, the air thick with the scent of last afternoon's heat. It rises from the packed clay beneath your mat, radiating upward as though the earth itself is exhaling. The stars above aren't shy tonight, they stretch clear across the sky in a way modern cities have completely forgotten, an ancient glitter that seems to hum. You're in a modest courtyard in the home of a craftsman, a sculptor, perhaps, known for carving gods out of limestone. His family is asleep around you, some curled on mats, some already snoring softly. The inner rooms are too hot to use in summer, so everyone sleeps under the open sky, surrounded by adobe walls and lazy breezes. You shift slightly on the reed mat, feeling the woven texture press into your shoulder blade. It's not a plush mattress, there's no memory foam or orthopedic curve, but it's not bad. Egyptians prized cleanliness and lightness in bedding. Linen, always linen. They'd go through elaborate steps to bleach and beat the fibers into a softness that's surprisingly gentle, even by modern standards. If you're lucky, your sheets were washed with natron, a type of soda ash that also happened to be used for mummification. You try not to think about that as you inhale the crisp, papery scent. A faint rustle nearby, someone's turning in their sleep. You open your eyes just a little. The courtyard is calm, washed in moonlight. A fig tree leans over the wall, casting long, crooked shadows. In one corner, a cat, sacred in this land, stretches luxuriously and yawns. Cats in ancient Egypt were more than pets. They were protectors, almost divine. If you're sleeping peacefully tonight, you might owe it to that feline guardian. The night isn't silent. Crickets chirp in a persistent rhythm, and from beyond the city walls, a jackal lets out a mournful cry. You imagine the landscape, the Nile flowing silently, wide and smooth like black silk. Beyond that, desert. And further still, the tombs of kings sleeping forever under carved stone, protected by curses and golden sarcophagi. Your thoughts drift, like the river itself, to daily life. Sleep in Egypt wasn't just functional. It was spiritual. The gods watched over your dreams, and temples held ceremonies to ensure harmony during the night. You wonder how it felt to drift into dreams knowing the stars were ancient even then, and the stories older than memory. Suddenly, a warm gust brushes across your face. The Sirocco winds. Dry, gritty, like a giant exhaling across the desert. It kicks up little swirls of dust along the courtyard edges. You pull the linen sheet up just a little. In summer, most people slept nearly naked. Not for comfort, but practicality. Loose linen, nothing more. The wealthier you were, the more linen you had. Some even scented their sheets with perfumes, frankincense, lotus oil, or myrrh. You're rocking the middle-class version, one sheet, slightly crispy, but clean. Just when you think you're drifting off, a bug lands on your arm. You slap at it instinctively. Mosquitoes, still a menace in every era. The ancients had some defenses, smoke pots, citronella-like herbs, even sleeping under thin gauze. But mostly, you just dealt with it. Consider this your entry exam into the harsh world of ancient rest. You lie back and stare at the stars again. One of them seems to shimmer more brightly. Sirius, maybe? The dog star. Egyptians tracked its rising to predict the Nile flood, a life-giving event so precise that their entire calendar revolved around it. You can almost imagine a priest, somewhere nearby, gazing up at the same sky, whispering calculations under his breath while fighting off sleep. Some of them must have been insomniacs too, right? The heat finally seems to release you. Your breath slows. Your body grows heavy. Somewhere deep in the house, someone coughs. The clay walls echo faintly, but the sound is oddly comforting, like someone saying, "You are not alone. You are part of a rhythm here." A quiet, ancient one. People slept simply, in tune with the stars and seasons. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians truly had better sleep than we do today, or if we're just romanticizing it. But as your eyes close again, and the desert night cradles you with its warm breath and occasional cat yowl, you start to understand. It's not about the mattress. It's the ritual, the rhythm, the surrender. You begin to dream. And just like that, the night in ancient Egypt begins to unfold around you, one soft breath at a time. You're still here, still somewhere under that giant Egyptian sky, only now your body's sunken a little deeper into the mat beneath you. It's probably not the most supportive sleep surface you've ever encountered, but your back has made its peace with the uneven reeds. There's something kind of satisfying about how it all squeaks slightly when you shift your weight, like you're lying on a hand-woven sandwich made of grass and desert dust. The linen covering you has cooled a bit since earlier. You pull it closer, tucking it under your chin, which feels oddly luxurious despite its scratchiness. You can almost believe that this is what comfort meant in ancient Egypt. No cushions. No memory foam. Just intention, woven into everything from the bed to the air itself. You hear someone snore again, an older woman, perhaps. Her snoring is rhythmic, like a little wooden fan creaking in a temple. You don't mind it. It's the sound of people who know how to rest. In this world, the bed is humble, yes, but it's still deliberate. Egyptians, even the less wealthy ones, took pride in the simplicity of their homes and their sleep setups. A raised wooden frame? That was a big deal. It kept you off the cold ground, away from bugs and dirt. Wealthier households might even have a frame decorated with carved legs shaped like lion paws or lotus flowers. Yours? More like functional rectangle. But you like it. The bed frame is light but sturdy, lashed together with linen cords. No nails. Just clever tension and skilled hands. You run your fingers along the side and feel the tiny notches, made by someone's chisel centuries ago, probably while they were thinking about lunch. You stretch out and feel the linen beneath you. Linen wasn't just for mummies, it was everyday luxury. Woven from flax grown along the Nile, it was lightweight and breathable, essential in a land where the air itself could roast your eyebrows. Rich families might have dozens of linen tunics and bed sheets, some so sheer they'd make a modern laundry label blush. And then there's the perfume. Not strong, not anymore, but you can still catch it if you press your face to the corner of your sheet. A hint of something floral and musky. Maybe blue lotus. Or maybe just history. Beside your bed is a small clay vessel. It holds water, not for drinking, but for dipping your hands and feet before lying down. Egyptians believed that sleep was a kind of sacred purification, and cleanliness was a part of that. If you were a priest, you wouldn't even be allowed to sleep without a ritual bath first. You dipped your feet like a champ. That counts. In the distance, you hear the low call of a night watchman. Not loud, just a soft signal to others patrolling the streets. Cities like Memphis and Thebes didn't sleep entirely, even at night. People worked shifts. Bakers started before dawn. Guards kept watch. Thieves skulked. Temples stayed partially active, because when gods are involved, there's no clocking out. You close your eyes again and imagine what it would be like to sleep in the palace. The pharaoh's quarters. You picture an entire chamber devoted to sleep, with thick linens, ornate beds, and servants who gently fan you with ostrich feathers while someone sang you lullabies in ancient Egyptian, which, by the way, probably sounded like a mix between Arabic and something lost to time. But even Pharaoh had his issues. Imagine trying to sleep knowing someone might try to poison you in the night, or that the gods could send a message through a dream that basically amounts to, change everything or die. No pressure. Sweet dreams, Your Majesty. Your head turns on the pillow, a generous term for the roll of cloth tucked under your neck. It's not much, but it beats the alternative. Some slept on nothing. Others had wooden headrests, yes, literal blocks of carved wood designed to support the neck while letting air flow around the head. Ancient ergonomic design. Not exactly plush, but hey, no sweaty scalp. Historians still debate whether these headrests were comfortable or just symbolic. Some say people got used to them. Others say they were more ceremonial than practical. One thing's for sure, you won't find them at IKEA. A cool breeze slides in. You hear the rustling of palm fronds again, softer this time. They sway with the steadiness of breath, almost like the city itself is sleeping. Suddenly, you catch the faint scent of incense, leftover from the evening's offerings. Maybe someone in the household burned myrrh or frankincense before bed, a little ritual to please the gods and chase off restless spirits. Egyptians weren't just sleeping, they were entering a sacred space, a liminal zone between the living and the divine. To dream was to dip your toes in the afterlife. You wonder about your dreams. If you were Egyptian, you'd take them seriously. There were entire dream manuals, papyrus scrolls explaining what it meant to dream of crocodiles, powerful, or fish, bad news, or being chased by a goose, very bad news, apparently. You roll onto your back and look up again. The stars haven't moved much, but they feel closer now. Time is doing that thing it always does when sleep approaches, stretching and folding in ways you can't quite follow. Something scurries across the roof above. Probably a lizard. Or a ghost. You're not sure which is more comforting at this point. And then you sigh. A long, satisfied sigh. This isn't the comfort you're used to, but it's a different kind of peace. One earned by tuning in instead of tuning out. The mat creaks softly beneath you, your sheet cool against your skin, and somewhere nearby the snorer has shifted. She's quiet now. You let your eyes close again. And once more, you drift, not just into sleep, but into a different kind of story. You don't wake so much as float up from the shallows of sleep, just enough to realize you're still there, still in the warm heart of ancient Egypt, where night is thick and slow and scented faintly with dust, linen, and something smoky. There's movement in the air now. A change. Not quite a wind, but a whisper. And the stars seem to be watching. In your dream, you are no longer a craftsman's guest. No, tonight you've somehow wandered into royalty. You are, momentarily, a person of absurd luxury. The kind of person whose sandals are laced by someone else. Whose pets wear gold. Whose bedtime routine is longer than your modern morning routine. You've entered the world of pharaoh-level sleep. Your chamber is vast, echoing slightly with each footstep. Polished stone underfoot, cool even in the heat. Carvings of gods line the walls, watching you with those ever-sideways glances. Batet. Hathor. Isis. All of them elegantly judging your pre-sleep posture. And your bed? It's less a bed and more a royal commandment made manifest. Carved from ebony or acacia wood, and laid with ivory, raised on clawed feet, it gleams in the lamplight. Steps are required to get into it. Steps. You practically need a Sherpa just to reach the pillows, which, by the way, are no longer folded linens but carved stone headrests wrapped in scented cloth. Because comfort here isn't always about softness, it's about symbolism, order, balance. Ma'at, the sacred harmony. Before you even think about lying down, servants begin the nightly rituals. One unrolls a clean linen tunic, so sheer it's basically a whisper. Another brings a copper basin of water and carefully pours it over your hands, your feet. Purification is essential. Sleep is a sacred threshold. You're not just resting, you're preparing to meet the gods in your dreams. There's oil involved. Of course there is. Blue lotus oil, massaged gently into your temples and wrists. Its scent is intoxicating, floral and earthy, and yes, mildly narcotic. That dreamy floatiness you're feeling? Part you, part psychoactive perfume. Egyptians were masters of aromatic seduction. They even wore wax cones of perfume on their heads that slowly melted during the night. That's commitment. Imagine going to bed every night with a scented candle slowly dripping down your hair. But, stylish. A young harpist enters, quietly. She plays a lullaby for you, soft, plucked notes that echo faintly in the chamber. It's more ambient than melodic, like the sound of moonlight through feathers. You lie back, floating somewhere between luxury and dream. The air smells of burning myrrh now. Thick. Resinous. Not unpleasant. It mingles with the scent of papyrus scrolls, of dried lotus petals. Someone passes by your doorway, murmuring a prayer to Thoth, god of wisdom. It's likely your scribe, retiring for the night. Even he, who records the laws and dreams of kings, must rest eventually. The chamber dims as oil lamps are extinguished, one by one. Darkness creeps in gently, like water rising in a pool. You don't fear it. Not here. Night is a respected guest in Egypt. And sleep? Sleep is a portal. To dreams. To prophecy. To the afterlife. Historians still debate whether these elaborate sleep rituals were everyday events for royalty or rare indulgences tied to ceremonial dates. What's clear is that for Egyptians, sleep wasn't just rest. It was a form of cosmic alignment. And the pharaoh? Well, he wasn't just sleeping. He was resetting the divine balance. You curl onto your side, letting the linen sheets cool your skin. For a moment, you forget your real self. You're royalty now. And even though your headrest is hard, even though the night is filled with unfamiliar sounds, owl calls, temple drums, the low chant of distant prayers, you feel safe. You slip back into dreams. And there, your body shifts again. Now, you're neither craftsman nor king. You're something in between. Maybe a temple worker, one who prepares the incense before sunrise. You sleep in the quarters near the sacred lake. Simpler, quieter, less gilded, but still wrapped in the same shared rhythm. Because here, in this land, everyone dreams under the same stars. From pharaoh to fisherwoman, sleep is the nightly ceremony. And even in its humblest form, it's steeped in reverence. The night deepens. Somewhere, a breeze stirs a hanging cloth. It flutters like a sigh. A cat leaps silently from one wall to another. And you, ancient dreamer in a borrowed time, breathe in, breathe out, and slip further into the velvet hush of Egyptian sleep. You stir slightly, not quite waking, as something tugs at the edge of your consciousness. It's not a sound, not exactly. More like a presence, a weightless pull, soft as breath, ancient as stone. You open your eyes just enough to see the moon, now high above, painting everything in bone-white light. The courtyard is still. But somewhere beyond your humble bed, a bell tolls. Faint. Measured. Hollow. A sound not meant to wake, but to remind. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes. In the distance, across the silent roofs and winding alleys, lies the great temple. Its silhouette rises against the stars, massive columns, carvings etched in shadow, a structure built not just for worship, but for eternity. This is the hour of the priests. While the rest of the city dozes under linen sheets or snores through mosquito bites, the temple is quietly alive. You slip out of your bedding, your mat creaks as you rise, and pad barefoot across the cool clay floor, drawn by something ancient, something sacred. The streets are empty. Silent, but not dead. The sand crunches beneath your feet. A dog lifts its head and watches you pass, then settles again. Even the wind feels cautious at this hour, sneaking between walls like a temple thief. As you approach the temple precinct, the smell of incense grows stronger. Myrrh, frankincense, kiffy, a thick, syrupy blend used only at night. It coils in the air like smoke from a dream. You stop at the outer courtyard. You can't go further. Not as a commoner. But you don't need to. You can hear them. The faint murmur of priests chanting inside, calling on Thoth, the moon god, lord of wisdom and writing. And beside him, Batet, the gentle protector, goddess of the home and the warm, sleepy cat curled at your feet earlier. You lean against the wall, eyes half closed. You imagine the rituals happening within. Lamps burning with animal fat, shadows flickering over golden idols. Hands raising vessels of scented oils, pouring libations into basins that reflect the moonlight like water made of silver. These nocturnal rites weren't just symbolic, they were essential. The gods had to be honored day and night. Sleep, to the Egyptians, didn't mean forgetting the divine. It meant drawing nearer. The quiet hours were believed to be potent, mysterious. Perfect for whispers with the otherworld. Priests would stay awake through the darkest hours, performing these sacred tasks. But they weren't immune to sleep either. Sometimes they dozed briefly between rituals, on stone benches, wrapped in shawls, dreams shaped by the sacred air around them. Historians still debate whether these midnight ceremonies were more about power and politics or true devotion. But to stand here, now, and feel it, the hush, the incense, the weight of eternity pressing softly against your skin, it's hard to imagine it wasn't deeply, profoundly real. You let your eyes close again. The scent of kiffy reaches you fully now. It's oddly soothing. Like wine and smoke and honey all braided together. The kind of smell that makes you want to sleep for 1,000 years, then wake up wiser. You return slowly through the streets. The city breeze around you, faint snores, the soft shifting of bodies, the whisper of wind through thatch. You pass by a water vendor's stall, empty now, the jugs lined up like sleeping sentries. When you finally reach the courtyard again, your mat looks like heaven. You lie down carefully, wrapping the linen around you like a cocoon. The scent of temple smoke still clings to your skin. You smile to yourself, was that real? A dream? Or something in between? Somewhere nearby, a child murmurs in their sleep. A donkey snorts once, then settles. And you? You return to your place among the dreamers. This time, the dreams come faster. You find yourself walking through a field of reeds. Not the kind that scratch your ankles or buzz with insects, but tall, still reeds that sway in no wind. The sky above you is dark, but not menacing. Familiar. Like the inside of a story. You're not alone. Figures move beside you. Glowing faintly. Carrying things. One has a jar. Another holds a feather. You recognize it from temple paintings, the feather of Ma'at. Truth. Balance. Sleep in Egypt wasn't just physical, it was moral. A night without rest was more than inconvenience. It meant disharmony. In your dream, the feather is placed on your chest. It doesn't weigh anything. You breathe in. And then you begin to float. The gods are silent. But the stars, they are watching. And you sleep, again. Not like someone avoiding morning. But like someone keeping a sacred promise. Something tickles your nose. Not a bug, thankfully, though those are always a possibility, but something more, pungent. Earthy. Unpleasant. Sharp, even. You scrunch your face, shift in your sleep, and open one eye. And then you remember. Ah yes. The crocodile poop. You blink, the soft rustle of linen brushing against your ear, and exhale into the warm air. It's early morning in ancient Egypt now, just a faint hint of dawn slipping across the horizon, and your mind drifts to one of the stranger facts you picked up while settling in here. Ancient Egyptians were absolutely dedicated to their nighttime comfort and their health. Sometimes both. And sometimes at the same time. With questionable results. You pull the sheet a little tighter around your shoulders and try not to think about the fact that crocodile dung was used as both a contraceptive and, yes, occasionally as a kind of protective paste. For what? Well, if you asked an Egyptian healer, the answer might range from preventing infection to spiritual shielding. Just be grateful your bedmate didn't believe in smearing it on before bedtime like a bedtime lotion. Ancient luxury had its dark corners. But don't laugh too hard, at least they were trying. Hygiene, medicine, even skin care were all taken surprisingly seriously. You roll onto your side and catch a glimpse of a small jar on a nearby shelf. It gleams faintly in the growing light, likely a mixture of honey, natron, and maybe, yes, you guessed it, another strong-smelling additive. They believed in preventative care. You can almost admire it. Almost. Someone moves near the doorway. A young woman, half asleep, walks past holding a small pot of thick, white paste. She yawns and pats her face with it. Clay and ash, mixed with oils. It's sunscreen, or their version of it. And yes, they wore it at night, too. Not just for protection from the sun but from spirits, disease, and, some believed, bad dreams. Because in Egypt, your body wasn't just a vessel. It was a temple. Even in sleep. Especially in sleep. You shift again and glance at the amulet lying near your mat. Small. Carved from turquoise. It's a representation of the Eye of Horus. You were told to keep it nearby for protection. Not just from snakes or thieves, but from what might chase you in dreams. Because those dreams? They mattered. And sometimes, they chased you back. Ancient Egyptians kept what we'd call a dream journal, though theirs was more like a user manual. Dream of eating fish? Bad omen. Dream of drinking beer? Surprisingly, not bad. Dream of falling into water? Could mean death, or just dehydration. Historians still debate whether the interpretations were rigid or more like guidelines, but one thing is certain, dreams weren't just nonsense to them. They were messages. Omens. Warnings. Blessings. Last night, you vaguely remember one. Walking across a desert made of feathers. A man with a jackal's head beside you, silent, but kind. You wonder what it meant. Somewhere in a temple archive, a papyrus scroll might hold the answer. If you could read hieratic script, that is. Your stomach grumbles slightly. Breakfast is still hours away. Probably flatbread and dates, maybe a splash of beer, yes, beer for breakfast. It's more like grain soup than anything alcoholic. The good stuff is saved for feasts and offerings. But here in the early hush, the food isn't what you're craving. It's stillness. You want to linger just a bit longer in this in-between moment. You shift your foot and feel a rough patch on the mat, probably a broken reed sticking through the weave. You press against it anyway. There's something grounding about the imperfection. A breeze moves through the courtyard. The fig tree above rustles. A piece of dried leaf flutters down and lands on your chest. You flick it away gently, not wanting to disturb the quiet. Around you, others are still asleep. One child clutches a ragged cloth doll. An elder breathes deeply, their hands folded on their chest like they're waiting for a god to visit in their dream. The sun isn't fully up yet, but the sky is bruising into pale gold. You remember a lesser-known fact someone whispered last night. Egyptians believed in soul parts. The Ba, the Ka, and the Ak, all pieces of your spiritual self, each with different roles. When you slept, the Ba could leave the body. It might fly like a bird, observing the world, or venturing into the dream realm. It always came back, hopefully. Unless something went wrong. That's why the amulet stays near your head. Insurance. Historians still debate whether these beliefs were symbolic or literal. Whether they truly imagined their souls flying like birds each night, or if it was metaphor for something deeper. Either way, you find comfort in the idea that sleep isn't absence, but a journey. You pull your knees up slightly, shifting into a fetal curl beneath the linen. The mat squeaks softly in reply. Someone outside begins sweeping the street with a palm frond broom, rhythmic, patient strokes. The sound is soothing, like the world waking up in stages. But you stay put. There's still time. And as you close your eyes again, the soft scent of incense, faint, carried on a morning breeze, returns. And so does sleep. Your breath is steady now. Deep. You've fallen back into the slow rhythm of ancient rest, and it carries you someplace strange. You don't open your eyes, but somehow, you see. Everything is golden. Not just sunlight, but that gleaming, eternal gold they painted into tomb walls. The air shimmers with heat, yet your body feels cool, weightless. You're no longer in a courtyard. You're lying in a carved chamber, underground, sealed in silence, surrounded by stillness thicker than stone. And somehow, you know. You're in the afterlife. Well, not dead. Let's not panic. You're just dreaming like an Egyptian. To the people of ancient Egypt, the afterlife wasn't a vague hope, it was a destination. A physical place you could picture, map, even prepare for. And yes, comfort mattered there too. Because what's the point of eternal life if you're tossing and turning on the wrong headrest for all eternity? You're lying on a burial bed now. Not a mat of reeds, but a beautifully carved wooden frame, inlaid with gold leaf and shaped like a lion. The linen beneath you is impossibly fine, so light it whispers against your skin. Your arms are crossed gently over your chest. Around you, the walls are painted with scenes from the Book of the Dead. Blue lotuses float on painted rivers. The gods stand in procession. Anubis watches over you with his jackal face, calm and professional, like a night shift nurse who's seen it all. There's no fear here. Only peace. In the real world, Egyptians put incredible effort into ensuring the dead could sleep well. Mummies were wrapped with layers of linen, sometimes over 100 yards of it, each piece carefully inscribed or blessed. Amulets were tucked between folds. Spells whispered. And yes, the beloved wooden headrest? That made the journey, too. Historians still debate whether these burial headrests were purely symbolic or intended to be used in the afterlife. But one thing is clear, even in death, sleep remains sacred. A quiet body, a still heart, a dream that never ends. You shift slightly, dream body cradled in silence. There's something comforting about the idea. Eternal rest, not as an absence, but as a continuation. You'd still have your bed, your linen, your little jar of ointment, maybe even a snack or two. You imagine being buried with your favorite blanket, maybe a cat figurine, perhaps even an extra pillow, just in case. In this dream, you rise, not physically, but, metaphysically. Your BA, that spiritual part of you with the body of a bird and the head of you, flutters up from your resting place. You hover. Glide. Watch yourself sleeping, preserved in peace, surrounded by careful preparation. It's not creepy. It's tender. Like checking on a friend. Then, you soar. Out of the tomb. Up, through layers of painted stone and packed earth, up into the early morning sky. You pass over the Nile, now glowing in the sun's first light, and see people beginning their day. A fisherman casts his net. A woman lights her oven. A priest finishes his dawn chant, face turned toward the rising sun. You pass over your own courtyard. Your real self is still there, breathing softly beneath linen, curled like a cat in the warm shadow of the fig tree. And just like that, your BA swoops back. Back to the tomb, to your sleeping form. Back to the courtyard mat, to your real self. You blink. You're awake again. Still under that golden sky. Still in your linen cocoon. A little sweatier, maybe, but otherwise intact. Someone nearby is pouring water into a basin. You hear the splash. Smell the dust. The living world is humming again. But in your chest, something lingers, a stillness. A hush. Like the dream's quiet has followed you back. You think again about the dead, buried with care. Their tombs filled with little comforts, comb sets, sandals, even food. Pharaohs had entire bedrooms carved into the rock. Some even had painted ceilings with star maps, so their souls would never lose their way. You roll onto your back, stare up at the sky, and imagine that same map stretched above you now. The constellations different, but the feeling eternal. You wonder if your dreams will be remembered one day. Or if some archaeologist, thousands of years from now, will find your mattress and say, "Ah yes." Clearly, this person believed strongly in phone support. You smile. Then yawn. And sleep finds you again, this time soft as sand, and deep as the tombs beneath the earth. You wake to the unmistakable sensation of something buzzing by your ear. You swat lazily at the air, groaning softly as your hand connects with absolutely nothing, which, of course, is exactly what the mosquito wanted. You open one eye and spot it hovering near the fig tree, wings catching the early sun like shards of glass. It's watching you. Judging you. Waiting for its chance to strike again. Welcome to ancient Egypt's real sleep disruptor, bugs. It's easy to romanticize the golden linen sheets, the perfume cones, the sleeping under stars part. But there's a reason many Egyptians slathered themselves in thick oils before bed, and it wasn't just to smell like a flower. It was defense. Against mosquitoes, sand fleas, and other bite-sized nightmares. A kind of nightly armor, slick and shiny. You reach over and dab at your arm. There's a small clay jar beside your mat, filled with a mix of castor oil, myrrh resin, maybe even crushed lotus. It smells not great. But it works. Mostly. You apply a thin smear and lean back again. And now you hear it, snoring. Rhythmic, unstoppable, and loud enough to rattle the woven reed mats. It's the older man sleeping 2 courtyards over. You've never seen his face, but you know his nasal passages intimately. Still, it's oddly comforting. Like a reminder that even in this sophisticated civilization, complete with calendars, mummies, and moon gods, people still snored. You sit up, stretching your back. The morning is well underway. The light is soft, but it's warming quickly. Time to get up, or at least pretend to. But just as you rise, your host walks in, holding something in his hands, a dream book. Well, not a book like you're used to. More like a bundle of papyrus scrolls tied with twine, scribbled with elegant ink symbols. He sees you awake and smiles. "Did you dream?" he asks, setting the scrolls down beside you. You nod. You're still not sure whether it was a real dream or just heatstroke hallucination, but you describe it anyway: a long river, a talking ibis, a mirror made of water. He nods seriously and starts unrolling the scrolls. In ancient Egypt, dream interpretation was a legitimate science. These weren't just bedtime curiosities, they were part omen, part diagnosis, part therapy. Temples employed dream readers, and special scrolls were copied and passed down. One famous example, the Chester Beatty Papyrus, even lists dreams alphabetically, like a divine cheat sheet. He runs his finger down a column of symbols and mutters to himself. "River, good," he says. "Water mirror, could be truth or deceit. Ibis, that's thoth. Knowledge, writing. You may receive a message soon." You nod solemnly, as if this isn't the coolest thing you've ever heard before your first meal. Then he chuckles. "Unless you were just hot." You both laugh. You glance again at the dream scrolls. The ink is faded, but the symbols are still clear. A crocodile, a lotus, a stick figure raising its arms like it's perpetually startled. There's something kind of beautiful about it, how they believed every sleep held meaning. A message from the gods. Or your soul. Or your lunch. It's hard to say. Historians still debate whether these dream guides were followed strictly or used more like inspiration. Some Egyptians even slept in special temple chambers, incubation rooms, hoping for sacred dreams. These pilgrims would fast, purify themselves, and lie down in dark sanctuaries, waiting for visions. Talk about a high-pressure nap. Your host begins to tidy the mats, rolling one with expert grace. You watch his hands move, swift, sure, ritualistic. Everything here, even folding a sheet, feels somehow sacred. He offers you a drink, a small clay cup filled with what looks like beer but tastes complicated. It's thick, almost chewable, with the sourness of unfiltered yeast. It was breakfast in ancient Egypt. Loaded with calories. Fermented happiness in a cup. You sip, cough once, and pretend to like it. Good, right, he says, grinning. You nod. Absolutely. He hands you a fig and some bread, a kind of hard, flat round with bits of date mashed in. You eat in silence while the city wakes up around you. The bakery next door lets off smoke. Somewhere, someone is yelling about a goat. And above all of it, the sun climbs like a slow, hot god into the sky. And yet, even here, even now, you're thinking about sleep again. Not because you're still tired, though you are. But because it's starting to make sense. The way Egyptians approached it, not as escape, but connection. To dreams. To symbols. To the rhythm of the gods. You finish your fig, brush crumbs off your lap, and glance at the scrolls again. One symbol catches your eye, a serpent winding through reeds, its tongue forked like a tuning fork. Nightmare, your host says, seeing your gaze. Bad dreams. Some say they come from a place beneath the world. Others say from too much garlic. You laugh. But later, when you curl up again in the shade of the fig tree, just for a nap, you can't help but glance at the dream scrolls one last time. The sun may rule the day. But the night? That belongs to dreams. And tonight, they might just come looking for you. You're drifting again. Not into sleep, not yet. This is the quiet space before sleep, the little window where your limbs go heavy, but your thoughts start getting weird. Like how you suddenly wonder, did ancient Egyptians ever argue about bedtime? You picture a tired mother, trying to convince a 5-year-old to lie still on a mat while the stars rise. Or maybe a teenager sneaking out across the rooftops to avoid some ceremonial foot washing. Even in a land filled with gods and gold, surely someone, somewhere, begged, 5 more minutes, just let me finish watching the stars. The truth is, for the ancient Egyptians, bedtime wasn't just about rest, it was a practice. A rhythm. It belonged to the architecture of life, like mealtimes, or offerings, or taxes, which were way more annoying than bedtime. You open your eyes. The sky's deepening into that rich, honey-colored hue it gets just before dusk. Not night yet, but getting there. The fig tree rustles softly above, as if whispering, get ready. You lie still and feel the day fading in slow motion. People around you are beginning to prepare. Mats are shaken out. Fresh linens unrolled. Someone hums a tune while rinsing their hands in a ceramic bowl. The same melody you heard last night. Maybe a lullaby, maybe a prayer. Or both. You sit up slightly and catch sight of something being set on a ledge, a sleeping cone. It's not large, about the size of a small fruit. Pale and waxy, shaped like an upside-down teardrop. These were scented wax cones, worn on the head during feasts and rituals, and sometimes, during sleep. Well, not for everyone. This was high-class comfort. A mixture of fat and perfume that would melt slowly over time, releasing scent, blue lotus, frankincense, maybe cinnamon, into your hair and the air. It wasn't just about smelling good. It was ritual, identity, even protection. You imagine falling asleep with a wax candle slowly puddling into your scalp and think, hard pass, but still, you admire the commitment. Smelling like the gods? Worth it. You lean back again. Your mat creaks agreeably. Nearby, someone places a small offering beside their bed, a bit of bread, a smear of honey, and a flower. It's for the household spirits. Or the ancestors. Or maybe just for peace of mind. In this culture, the boundary between living and dead, between dream and waking, was porous. Thin as linen. You glance around. Everything is quieter now. The city is slowing down. No carts. No shouting. Just the soft tap of someone sweeping, and the distant call of a flute drifting down an alley like perfume on the wind. You close your eyes. And this time, it takes only seconds. Sleep pulls you under like the Nile pulls silt, softly, steadily, no resistance. And in the dream that forms, you are walking again. But not in the desert. You're in a long hall, lined with massive columns. The walls shimmer with gold paint. Symbols crawl along the edges, hieroglyphs alive and moving like lazy insects. You walk barefoot. Your linen robe whispers against your legs. Ahead of you is a figure with the head of a falcon, Horus, maybe. Or Ra, the sun itself. He turns, and instead of speaking, he gestures. You follow. He leads you through a doorway, into a chamber full of beds. Not like a dormitory, these are elegant, elevated beds, each one carefully attended by priests. People are lying in them, eyes closed. Dreaming. Is this the temple of sleep, you ask, not with your voice, but with your mind? The god doesn't answer. Just points to one of the beds. Yours. You lie down. And as you do, your body becomes lighter. Almost transparent. You are dreaming inside a dream. A nesting doll of consciousness. An ancient trick of the sleeping mind. And even here, within layers of illusion and incense, you notice the details, the creak of wood, the cool of linen, the smell of blue lotus. The sounds of breathing. Sleep, even here, follows the same rules. Because no matter how high you climb, whether to the gods, the tombs, or a palace tower, you still have to lie down eventually. Historians still debate whether Egyptians truly believed they visited the gods in dreams, or simply hoped to. But in moments like this, suspended in softness and myth, it hardly matters. You drift through another layer of sleep. Lighter this time. Your breathing slows. And for a while, there's no Egypt. No gods. No scrolls or fig trees or dream books. Just you. Wrapped in time, gently turning beneath a sky full of watching stars. There's a chill on your face when you wake this time. It's not sharp, not the kind of cold that bites, but a gentle shift. A reminder that even in the sun-drenched lands of the Nile, night can find its way in. You pull your linen wrap closer and breathe in deeply. The scent of the courtyard has changed. Less fig tree, more earth. Damp dust. The kind of smell that only happens when the wind shifts off the river. You sit up slowly and stretch, your joints giving soft pops like reeds bending in the wind. Someone nearby coughs and mutters sleepily. The world is still quiet, but no longer asleep. And you notice something new, the stars have moved. Not dramatically. Just a little. But enough to tell you that hours have passed. In ancient Egypt, they watched the stars like clocks. Especially one in particular, Sirius, the brightest of them all. Its appearance in the dawn sky signaled something critical, the inundation, when the Nile would flood and bring life back to the soil. That star was so important, it helped define their entire calendar. You tilt your head back and scan the sky. The constellations here aren't shaped like bears and dippers. They're gods, animals, sacred boats. Shapes that move not just across the heavens but through myth. To sleep under the stars in Egypt wasn't just romantic, it was a kind of divine surveillance. The gods were always watching. Always present. In fact, the very idea of staying up through the night to track the stars was a religious duty. There were specialized temple astronomers, the hour priests. They would lie on their backs on temple roofs, watching the sky. Carefully counting how long each star took to move from one side of the heavens to the other. You imagine them there now. lying still, wrapped in robes, sandals tucked under their heads like pillows, whispering to each other in hushed tones. There goes Sabdet. Second hour of the night. And just like that, time moved forward. Historians still debate how precise this system really was, but we know they mapped it carefully. There are star charts carved into coffin lids. Not for fun, but to guide the BA, your spirit, on its journey through the afterlife. Because yes, even in death, you needed to know what time it was. You lie back down and glance up at the sky, imagining the invisible lines, the constellations that told people when to sleep, when to pray, when to prepare for the river's return. It's oddly comforting. Sure, your mattress is a bit too flat, and you've got an unfortunate bite on your ankle, but the cosmos is punctual, predictable, almost kind. The breeze picks up again, brushing your face. You smell ashes and grain. Somewhere, someone's lighting a small fire for baking the first bread of the morning. And then you hear them, chants. Distant, melodic, repetitive. Priests in a nearby temple are welcoming the dawn. And what better way to begin the day than by acknowledging the gods and thanking them for letting you wake up? You smile. A sleepy grin that almost doesn't make it to your cheeks. Because here, waking up isn't just coming back. It's a kind of miracle. You sit up fully and stretch your arms toward the faintest pink line on the horizon. A few other sleepers are stirring now. Mats being folded, faces rinsed, hair tied back with linen strips. No one rushes. No one talks. It's a slow resurrection. You help roll up your own mat, tying it with a bit of palm cord. The texture is rough, but you like it. Real. Earthy. A small girl offers you a cup of something warm. Not quite tea, more like herbs steeped in water. You sip it and taste anise and mint and something bitter that makes your tongue curl. You nod politely. She smiles. Then points up at the sky. You follow her finger, and there it is. Serious. Bright. Clear. It blinks at you like a knowing eye. You wonder what the priests are writing right now. What charts they're adjusting. What offerings they're preparing. Because here in Egypt, the sun doesn't just rise. It is reborn. Every single day. And your sleep? It was a rehearsal for that. You fold the blanket one last time and place it neatly beside the mat. A final ritual. And then, just as the first rays of gold start to kiss the tips of distant pylons, you sit quietly and breathe. Letting the last remnants of dreams drain away like the river's ebb. You'd think, after such a profound, starlit moment, watching Sirius blink above the rooftops, hearing the soft chants from the temple, feeling reborn in the glow of the rising sun, you'd be fully awake. But no. You're still barely functioning. Groggy. Stiff. A little dehydrated. A fly is doing a repeated, tiny cannonball into your forehead. And someone nearby is already pounding grain like it's an emergency. You're starting to realize that even the most spiritually aligned ancient Egyptian had mornings that felt like mornings. Fortunately, they had a strategy. And that strategy? Naps. That's right. The ancient Egyptians were no strangers to sleeping more than once a day. While they didn't leave behind alarm clocks or espresso machines, they clearly understood one thing: rest was modular. It came in pieces. If a full night of dreaming under a fig tree didn't cut it, you simply napped again later. In fact, many people broke their sleep into parts, especially those who worked around temple schedules or followed agricultural rhythms. If you were a farmer waking before dawn to beat the heat, you likely snuck in another snooze after lunch. Temple workers, too, often rotated their duties around the sun and moon. Even tomb painters were known to nap between shifts, curled under scaffolding, surrounded by half-finished gods. So you give in. You roll your mat back out, fold your tunic under your head, and let your limbs go slack. It's not quite night, not quite day. The perfect time for that in-between sleep, the kind where dreams are short, but weirdly intense. As your breathing slows, your mind starts to paint a new dream. You're inside a workshop this time. Not a humble one, this is elaborate. You're an artisan of the highest order, carving a coffin for a noblewoman. The wood is smooth beneath your hands. Every tool is exactly where it should be. And there's incense burning, cedar, sandalwood, and something sharp you can't name. A scribe reads out instructions nearby. Place her in eternal sleep facing east. You nod, not questioning. East is the direction of sunrise, of rebirth. It's also the direction most people were buried in, so that their souls could rise with the sun. And this noble woman? She clearly planned her eternity down to the last lotus petal. As you dream carve, you realize that this isn't just a job, it's part of a bigger sleep ritual. Egyptians didn't separate sleep from death from dreaming. To them, they were woven threads in the same linen cloth. Each night, you were practicing. Each nap, a rehearsal. Even your breath, measured and shallow, mimicked the deep stillness of eternity. In your dream, you finish the final panel, a scene of the noblewoman asleep beneath a tree, a lion beside her, and stars overhead. You step back. It's perfect. Then you wait. The courtyard is brighter now. The heat is building. The scent of baking bread drifts over the walls, warm and toasty, making your stomach growl like an offended jackal. You sit up and blink slowly. That nap? It didn't feel like rest. It felt like communion. Nearby, a neighbor is dozing in the shade, arm over her face. Another rolls over and mutters about a dream involving hippos and honey, possibly unrelated. A child is curled up beside a loaf of bread like it's a pet. Everyone is, once again, reclaiming fragments of sleep in their own way. Historians still debate whether these nap patterns were intentional or just practical. Did Egyptians design their sleep like a temple calendar? Or did they simply adapt to the rhythm of the Nile, of the sun, of the work that shaped them? Whatever the reason, it worked. Because even now, as the city stirs and the dust begins to rise with footsteps, you feel restored. You didn't need 8 hours in silence. You needed this. Soft cloth. Warm sun. A breeze that knew exactly when to arrive. You stretch again, slow, deliberate, and rise to fold your mat one final time. But you hesitate. You leave it half-folded. Because there's still more dreaming to do. Not now. But soon. Egyptians always believed there was another journey ahead. Another chance to close your eyes, slip across the veil, and meet the gods in silence. And tonight? You'll do it again. Because sleep, here, is not a pause. It's a return. The sun is high now. It hangs overhead like a golden plate on an invisible hook, scorching the earth, baking every stone, making your tunic cling to places it should not cling to. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand and sigh. You've already learned one of Egypt's great truths: the only escape from this kind of heat is sleep. Which is why, in every shaded doorway, beneath every awning, people are asleep again. At first, you thought it was laziness. But now you know better. This is strategic survival. A carefully timed, socially accepted, sweat-dodging retreat into dreamland. You find your own sliver of shade beneath a clay overhang. The bricks radiate warmth like a giant oven, but the shade? It's just cool enough. You lie back on your rolled-up tunic and stare up at the roof's underside, mud, brick, straw, and a very suspicious spider. Still, it's perfect. This time, you fall asleep almost instantly. And once again, you dream. You're inside a grand palace. Not the kind with glittering columns and golden statues, but a quieter wing, the bedroom of the pharaoh himself. And not just any pharaoh. This is Ramesses the Great. Yes, that Ramesses. Long-lived, battle-scarred, ego the size of the Nile. But in this moment, he is asleep. Snoring softly. His chest rising and falling beneath fine linen sheets embroidered with blue thread. A fan sways gently nearby, operated by an unfortunate servant with biceps like stone. You, for some reason, are a ghost. Or maybe just a dream observer. You drift around the chamber like smoke, watching the small routines of royal rest. And what a routine it is. A guard outside the door paces with a silent step. In the corner, a priest of Sekhmet, goddess of protection and healing, chants softly over a bowl of herbs. There's a small statue of Bes, the squat lion dwarf god of dreams and childbirth, tucked under the bed frame. Probably a gift from one of Ramesses' dozens of wives. Yes, even pharaohs needed sleep gods. Especially them. After all, when your kingdom stretches from the Mediterranean to Nubia, you'd better be well rested. Back in waking Egypt, it wasn't unusual for royals to take their sleep seriously. Palaces had designated sleep chambers, cooled with water jars, perfumed with incense, shielded by curtains soaked in oils that acted as both scent and mosquito repellent. Beds were elevated, sometimes with carved legs shaped like lion paws. Headrests weren't just furniture, they were status symbols. Historians still debate whether all of this helped people sleep better, or just made it harder to find the right position. But there's no question that Egyptian elites turned sleep into art. In your dream, Ramesses stirs. He mutters something. A name? A battle? Then rolls over with the grace of a man whose bed cost more than your entire existence. You drift away, through a window, out into the gardens, where palace workers nap beneath fig trees and palace cats stretch languidly in the heat. And then you wake. Still beneath your humble clay overhang, your tunic bunched beneath your head, your back covered in dust. No guards. No blue-threaded linen. No cats, well, except one very judgmental tabby staring from a wall nearby. But still, you feel royal. Because in this culture, sleep was universal. A sacred act practiced by peasants and pharaohs alike. Your bed may be made of reeds, and theirs of ivory, but your dreams? Equally divine. You sit up and stretch. The shade has shifted, chasing you out. You dust off your tunic and take a moment to notice the world around you. The city isn't buzzing, it's napping. Movement has slowed to a dreamlike pace. Even the flies are sluggish. You take a sip from a nearby water jug. Cool, with a faint tang of clay. Refreshing enough. And then, as if summoned by your thoughts, someone walks past carrying a carved headrest. Not a pillow, let's be clear. A U-shaped piece of wood placed under the neck. These were common across classes, found in tombs and households alike. They were believed to protect your soul during sleep, keeping your head elevated to let dreams come in and evil spirits stay out. You wince, imagining the stiff neck. But part of you wonders, did they know something we don't? Maybe it was the shape. Maybe the symbolism. Or maybe it was just that, in a world full of divine animals, sacred rivers, and stars that told the hour, a little neck discomfort was a small price to pay for cosmic security. You rise slowly. The day is burning now. It's time to move, to rejoin the living world. But your mind stays soft, half dreaming. You're starting to see Egypt not as a place of extremes, but of ritual balance. Wake, sleep. Work, rest. Pharaoh, farmer. All of it woven together in linen and light. And soon, the sun will begin to lower again. And you? You'll be ready. Because you know now. Sleep here isn't just a cycle. It's a ceremony. The sun has begun its slow descent, and with it comes the return of shadows. They stretch long across the clay tiles, curl behind woven baskets, and sneak under doorways like old cats finding their way home. You find a place on the edge of the courtyard again, cooler now, and settle into the kind of tired that only comes after being awake too long in ancient Egypt. It's that specific brand of fatigue, not exhaustion, but a dreamy looseness in your limbs, like you're already halfway to dreaming. Your body remembers what it's meant to do. Rest. But before the night truly falls, there's a ritual to perform. You rise slowly and follow the others, neighbors, family, strangers who've become familiar through shared yawns and sleep-filled silences. They carry jars, cloths, and herbs. You carry nothing. Just curiosity. The group moves toward a small structure near the edge of the complex, a household shrine. Not massive. Not ornate. Just a low stone platform beneath a painted awning. A tiny clay figure of Bess watches from its corner with its lion dwarf face, part guardian, part cosmic babysitter. You meet its bug-eyed stare and feel oddly reassured. Tonight is a special night. It's the Festival of Sleep. Not the official name, but it might as well be. This is one of those lesser-known domestic rituals held in some communities to honor dream spirits and ward off night terrors. Not nightmares, those were just bad dreams. Night terrors were something else. Something with teeth. People believed that certain entities, shadow spirits, unquiet dead, or even misfiring gods, could slip into your dreams if you weren't protected. So this ritual? Insurance. You kneel beside a young woman who sprinkles dried herbs, juniper, myrrh, and crushed lotus, onto a clay plate. She lights them with a coal taken from a nearby cooking fire. Smoke rises in delicate spirals, and the scent is deeply familiar now. It smells like dreams. Then comes the chanting. Low, rhythmic, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. People aren't loud. They're soft, almost whispering. Some close their eyes. One man rocks slightly, humming beneath his breath. You don't know the words, but you feel them. They're about guidance. Protection. The hope that your BA, your soul bird, will find its way safely back to your body by morning. Historians still debate whether these kinds of household sleep rituals were widespread or isolated. But the archaeological hints are there: figurines, headrests engraved with protective spells, soot marks on small altars near beds. The evidence whispers what the scrolls don't shout: the night was never faced lightly. As the smoke thins and the chants fade, people begin to trickle back to their sleeping places. You linger a moment longer beside Bess, nodding in thanks. He doesn't blink, he never does, but you feel his approval anyway. Back in the courtyard, your mat is still there, freshly smoothed. A small flower has been placed on the corner, blue lotus, again. A symbol of rebirth, often depicted rising from the mouths of the dead. A plant that closed at night and bloomed with the sun. You lie down and let the sky settle over you like a second blanket. The stars are returning. But this time, you notice something new. They're moving. Not just drifting through their usual celestial dance, but tracking. Ancient Egyptian ceilings, especially in tombs, were sometimes painted with stars. Not as decoration. As maps. Guides for your soul. Each star a checkpoint. A cosmic breadcrumb. You try to trace a path from one to the next. Could your BA follow this road? Could it fly safely? You close your eyes and picture it, your little soul bird with your tired face, flapping awkwardly across constellations, dodging other spirits like traffic cones. You chuckle softly into your linen wrap. Then breathe in. And out. The fig tree rustles once more. A night jar sings from somewhere in the darkness. The distant sound of a flute returns, soft, soothing, eternal. Your body softens. Not into unconsciousness, but into belief. Not religion, necessarily. But trust. Trust that the stars will shine. That the smoke will guide. That the gods, tiny and lion-faced or mighty and falcon-eyed, will watch you sleep. And in that quiet, just before the last thought slips away, you wonder. What will tonight's dream be? A river of honey? A staircase to the moon? A familiar face, waiting by the Nile? Whatever it is, you're ready. You don't remember falling asleep. One moment, you were watching the stars realign above the courtyard. The next, you're walking barefoot across smooth, polished stone that glows faintly in the dark. No shadows, no ceiling, no sound but your footsteps echoing off invisible walls. You're in a temple, but not a temple. It feels like memory. Like dreaming inside someone else's dream. And ahead, just beyond the next colonnade, there's light, warm and flickering. You follow it. There's a chamber, round and low, walls painted with swirling colors, dark blue, rust red, gold leaf that dances in the firelight. And there, reclining on a divan that looks suspiciously like your courtyard mat in disguise, is a scribe. Not a god. Not a priest. Just a man with ink-stained fingers and a grin like he's been waiting all night for you to show up. Sleep well, he asks. You nod, and he gestures for you to sit. On the low table before you are scrolls. Dozens. Hundreds, maybe. Everyone labeled with a tiny symbol, a cat, a jug, a moon, a beetle. These, he says, are dreams. All of them. Yours? Someone else's? Doesn't matter. He unrolls one, and images shimmer into life, a young girl chasing a falcon through reeds. Another, a man flying over a black river. Another, a crocodile weeping golden tears beneath a sky shaped like a woman. You watch in awe. Dreams are not just messages, he says. They're maps. Clues. Echoes. In the real world, Egyptian scribes were more than record keepers, they were interpreters, guides between the seen and unseen. They wrote spells, transcribed rituals, and often were the ones who recorded dreams brought by priests or by pilgrims who had slept in sacred temple chambers. You glance down at a scroll that unrolls itself before you. You see yourself. Sleeping under the fig tree. Then walking among stars. Then sitting, right here. You look up sharply. The scribe is gone. And suddenly you're back. Back in your courtyard, still curled on your mat, the linen edges bunched under your chin. But something is different. Because now, you remember that your dream had layers. And one of them told you something real, that dreams weren't just stories. They were how Egyptians processed the deepest truths of their lives. Death. Desire. Danger. Hope. Some dreams were warnings. Some were prophecies. Some were just leftover bits of stew and honey beer and heat stroke. But all were honored. Egyptians even had dream dictionaries, catalogs of symbols and meanings. If you dreamed of drowning, good fortune. If you saw a snake, danger, or sometimes just change. It depended on the context. Which, honestly, still checks out today. Historians still debate how seriously these dictionaries were taken. Some say they were more ceremonial than practical. But to the dreamer, they meant structure. Order. A little control in the chaotic theater of the sleeping mind. You sit up slowly and stretch your arms above your head. The night is quiet. Your fellow sleepers are still deep in their own dreams, some softly murmuring, one snoring like a distant war drum. You glance at the sky again. The stars have shifted. But you're not surprised anymore. They do this every night, don't they? Guide you. Count for you. Wait for you. You rest your chin on your knees and think about the strange peace you found here. No curtains. No springs. No apps tracking REM cycles. Just you, the mat, the moon, and a culture that made sleep sacred. It wasn't just downtime. It was alignment with the gods, the seasons, the dead, and the soul. The way a priest might speak to a god through incense, you, here in this courtyard, are speaking through silence. There's no need to interpret it tonight. You're not a scribe. Just a traveler. A dreamer. A very sleepy human wrapped in ancient linen. And it is enough. You lie back down, press your cheek to the woven mat, and exhale one long, slow breath. Because this sleep? This one belongs to you. You slip away from the courtyard's gentle bustle and follow a narrow corridor into the heart of the house, a chamber lined with low wooden shelves, each groaning under bundles of papyrus scrolls. The air here is cool, tinged with the dry, earthy scent of aged paper and the faintest hint of fish paste ink, a lesser-known scribal trick that doubled as glue, and as breakfast went, you definitely wouldn't volunteer for that roll in a sandwich. You run your fingers over the rolled ends of scrolls, some tied with faded linen, others capped by tiny clay weights shaped like beetles. This is the household library, a quiet sanctuary where scribes spent more waking hours than anyone else, save the pharaohs' astronomers on temple roofs. You remember the completion of the Great Pyramid around 2560 BCE, when thousands of scribes recorded every block, every ration of bread and beer, and every groan of a laborer who probably should have taken better vitamins, or just fewer pyramid stones. Their meticulous ledgers helped Egypt become a marvel of engineering, and gave bureaucrats something to do when they weren't inventing new ways to avoid laundry day. You step carefully across the sand floor, watching your footsteps kick up tiny clouds that settle slowly back down. On your left, a scribe lies half asleep on a low bench, using a rolled scroll as a pillow, a DIY luxury approach that, judging by his drool, works better than most neck support devices sold today. He snores softly, the sound echoing like a reed flute in a tomb. You nearly wake him just to tell him he's killing the vibe, but decide he looks too comfortable in his papyrus nest. A second scribe sits at a barkwood desk, quill in hand, glasses, no, goggles, no, just some old lens shards pressed over his eyes, scratching away at a fresh scroll as if the Great Pyramid's records depended on it. In fact, they did, hieroglyphic lists of rations, labor shifts, and even how many loaves of bread were deemed royally acceptable each day. Later, those same lists would be copied into the temple archives, preserving every mundane detail for eternity, because what's more fun at a millennia-old reunion than comparing ancient payrolls? You inhale deeply. There's a faint undercurrent of lotus oil. Someone's poured a little onto the floor cloth to keep dust at bay, or maybe to keep odors hiding in the scrolls from sneaking out. It's soothing, like a spa treatment from the past, except that instead of cucumbers on your eyes, you've got hieroglyphs staring back at you. You wander past a small table scattered with broken pottery and inks. Here's another weird fact. Some scribes mixed their black ink with charcoal, gum, and water, but others swore by a venomous snake root tincture for permanence. Historians still debate whether that tincture actually improved ink longevity or was just a clever marketing ploy by certain ink merchants trying to corner the market on apothecary monopolies. A hush falls over the room as you approach the back wall, where a single oil lamp flickers beneath a painted image of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing and wisdom. You pause to admire the way the lamplight dances on his carved beak, imagining Thoth himself keeping vigil over every word recorded here. Then you spot it, an alcove bench piled high with rolled mats and folded linen wraps. Scribes understood something modern office workers still fight daily. No matter how serious the job, sometimes you just need a nap. And here they napped in silence, propping their scrolls as headrests, or curling up under a cloth canopy woven from leftover linen. You picture them waking stiffly, swearing they'd invent a neck support device one day, and then getting back to business, because the day after the pyramid's completion, someone needed to record how many bricks were missing or extra. In one corner, a small wooden box holds tiny carved headrests, miniature good luck charms for scribes to tuck under their pillows at home. They believed these replicas would keep the real spirits of sleep away from their dreams, so they could wake up with pen in hand, or reed brush, technically, and ready to record the next grand, or not-so-grand, adventure. You laugh softly. Even here, in the hushed sanctum of knowledge, the Egyptians found ways to blend the practical and the mystical. It's comforting. They weren't just hoarding papyrus, they were crafting a bridge between daily life and the vast unknown of dreams and death. As you step back toward the corridor, the scribe you nearly woke shifts in his sleep. You pause, flash him a reassuring smile. No alarms here, only the reward of dreaming among scrolls. You imagine him waking to the scratch of quill on papyrus, blinking at the faint dawn light, then muttering, "Great Pyramid? Did we really nap through that?" You shake your head and continue on, retracing your steps through the shelves. The sunlight begins to filter in, casting angular shadows that look like hieroglyphs dancing over the sand. You can almost hear the distant murmur of courtyard life, children laughing, water splashing, someone banging out yet another loaf of sun-baked bread, thankfully not in here. And as you emerge back into the open air, blinking against the sun, you carry with you a newfound respect for those silent keepers of history. Scratchy voices. Scratchy ink. Scratchy snacks, fish paste, you guessed it. They wrote the story of a civilization under the watchful eyes of gods and stars. You pause, look up at the fading blue sky, and whisper to yourself, not bad, papyrus pillow. Not bad at all. The day sighs into evening. Shadows stretch lazily across the courtyard as the last light catches the dust in gold-tinted halos. Everything feels quieter now, less like winding down, more like slipping gently into a pause. There's no urgency here. Just the rhythm. The calm slide from day into night, from thought into rest, from the outside world back into the one you carry behind your closed eyes. You lay out your mat for the final time, smoothing it with palms made dusty from the floor. Someone nearby hums, a soft tune that feels older than language. You're surrounded again by the simple sounds of Egypt going to bed, fabric folding, firewood settling, the last clink of a clay cup being placed on stone. Tonight feels different. Not because anything has changed, but because you have. You came here expecting maybe a few historical oddities, a few weird ancient facts to make sleep feel a little more interesting. Instead, you found a whole civilization that treated sleep not as a gap in the day, but as a place of purpose. And tonight, you're ready to return to that place. You stretch out slowly, the sky above already peppered with stars. Sirius is there again, like a patient guide. The fig tree's leaves rustle above, and a night bird calls, once, twice, then goes quiet. You feel the cool linen of your wrap against your skin, the mat firm beneath your shoulders, and the air, finally gentle. In the distance, temple bells sound, a low, melodic tone that once signaled offerings to the gods, but here, now, feels like a lullaby for the whole city. Your body sinks deeper. Muscles unwinding. Thoughts melting. And in the slow fade between wakefulness and dream, you think of all the people who slept like this before you. Pharaohs in their golden tombs. Farmers under the stars. Scribes curled around half-written scrolls. Children dreaming of hippos made of honey. The same stars. The same breath. The same moment. Because in ancient Egypt, sleep wasn't the end of the day. It was a return. A sacred practice. A quiet journey. And tonight, you are part of it. So, before your final thoughts slip away completely, here's one more thing to carry with you. The gods are still watching. But they're not judging. They're just making sure you made it home safely. And now, your eyes are heavy. The mat is warm. The night is here. It's time. Close your eyes. Float backward. Drift softly. Into dreams as old as the Nile. End of script. Sweet dreams. Dove Crescent Moon.